All right, so let's get to some gossip. What are some red flags that you have seen that maybe didn't appear as red flags, but over the course of your tenure, you're like, yeah, like let's be careful when we're signing these guys on. I'll start to give you an idea. So married couples, so whatever the spouse is coming from
Yeah.
a place of
Somebody buys it.
unhappiness,
Yeah.
and they think that buying a business is going to make the spouse happy. Welcome to Dear Franny, the franchise advice column. I'm your host, Catherine LeBlanc. And along with my co host, James Vitrano, we've spent our careers inside growing franchise systems. From marketing to operations, we break down real questions and real challenges and share the kind of answers you only get from experience. Let's jump in. Paying that close attention. Okay. Thanks for joining, Dear Franny. I'm your host, Catherine.
And I'm her co-host, James.
Hi, James. Nice to talk with you again today. I am curious, what is our this or that question today?
Okay, leading it off. I love when I get to lead off with this or that. This is a good one, and I can't wait to talk about it. I'm letting you go first. This or that, brokers or in-house sales, franchise development. What say you, Catherine?
I'm going to take the side of brokers on this one. And
No.
I know, I know it's going to be so popular, but I'm going to give you a few reasons why working with brokers could be advantageous for your brand. So, brokers, number one, we are all competing for the same leads. So, brokers, in house, FSOs, which are franchise sales organizations, we are all competing for the same leads. And so if we are all competing for the same leads, don't you brand want to be where those leads are? One of those places is with the brokers, whether you like it or not. And so you will be seeing people that for whatever reason feel like they have to be guided through a franchise selection process and therefore will never come through your organic channels. So you can feel confident that the leads that your brokers are bringing you are not leads that you'd be able to get out on your own through the organic process. Reason number one to work with brokers. Number two, I do think that brokers, if treated as part of your team, can, in a certain extent, can be partners with you in the process and thus help you close the deal at a higher rate than you can on organic. So if you need 100 leads to close 10 organic deals, you may only need 50 leads from brokers to close those same 10. Number two, my third reason why you should consider working with brokers is that some concepts are not sexy. And those non sexy concepts do well with brokers because the brokers are presenting options to their clients that they don't have to be sexy, right? They are listening to their clients' needs. If you have a flooring business or a window cleaning business or a siding business, sometimes those small business owners don't know they want to sign a siding business until they say, well, this is what I do want. I want to make this much money and work this many hours and not have a brick and mortar location. Okay, well, these are the options for you. So, those would be my top three reasons of why you should consider working with brokers. James, what say you?
It's very hard to be quiet this time and not interrupt. I don't control the things on our podcast, so I can't mute you or anything like that. However, I will say, while I strongly disagree, three well articulated reasons that I think may end up with us finally. And I don't know if we kept any stats on this or that. We could maybe found some common ground. But
Okay.
my three reasons are LIT: loyalty, intimacy, and team,
Okay.
right? It's your brand. Don't go out to anybody else who doesn't have loyalty to your brand. Two, it's an intimate relationship and an intimacy with your brand. So I want somebody on my team to fully understand the ins and outs, be completely committed to what they are selling, have worked in those stores or offerings, and have an intimate relationship with our offering. And then team, right? No matter what you say, a broker is still a broker. It's an outside party. It's a free agent. So they are maybe an element of the team, but they're not the team. So I, you know, I think My preference has always been to have loyalty, intimacy, and a team. But if you're pitching to me that there's some supplementation to the extent your budget can do it, I don't disagree. If you can bring the right broker on that can help you with that lead generation, that has those people who want to be guided, then perhaps, the marrying of these two could be something that could serve you. But I should, if I were starting a franchise group, would ensure that that broker has the loyalty, intimacy, and teamwork commitment to my brand if I were going to go outside.
Well, and I think that's where the common ground we can find is that if you're using brokers as an extension of your program and that brokers are not the program.
We put this and that together and come up with, I don't know what a combination of this and that is, but we have found common ground on this or that. What a day.
What a day, especially on this like very polarizing topic. I will say,
Right.
I've been working with a couple of brands lately, and the effort to create and sustain your in-house organic sales engine is unexpected for the leaders that I'm working with. And so, if you are an emerging franchise or if you're not, I would say the time to invest in your in-house engine is now, and it should be done in parallel. And I think, there is reasons for all of the ways that you do Fran Dev. I understand that. But the longer you put off developing that in-house sales engine, the longer that it takes. Marketing is momentum, right? That is just my phrase. I always use it, and it's true in Fran Dev as well. And so, if you're not investing in an owned website where you are controlling the SEO and the GEO, an own a advertising kind of cadence that you are funding, and if somebody else is running it for you, like an FSO, you don't know what you should be doing, right? And so then you get a budget and you're like, well, this is too much. And it's like, well, this is how much it costs to close a deal. So I would say for me, definitely not an either or situation. And if you're not investing in your in-house sales engine today, then that needs to start immediately.
And I would say this shameless plug for James's Your Franchise. Or, we created an offering that sort of marries the two, right? And
Hmm.
what I love what you raised there is, you know, if you're going to invest in your franchise development team internally, you're looking at a substantial allocation of G&A, where the data generally shows that you will not cash flow for 4 years and you won't break even 5 to 7, right? Depending on it. So, to the extent you have the ability to truly invest in the building of it, great. However, if you're looking to get going on a budget standpoint, partnering with the right franchise group that knows how to build, sell, and operate, because that's what we are. We are a BSO, a build, sell, and operate group, where we are committed to the 2 to 4 clients we take on because we are lit, we are loyal, we are intimate, and we are part of the team. So, you know, I think it is an investment. I think it's a long ramp to pay back, but
Hmm.
eventually that the marrying of those two, and it maybe start with, an outside group that you can trust that has a vested interest in your growth and
Hmm.
then can transition into internal at some point in time. Maybe the two need to go together for the first time ever on this or that.
I love it. I love it. And I love that you brought up your franchise. It's not something that we talked about often. So I'm really glad that you've been able to. I like the BSO, build,
Yeah,
sell, operate.
operate. Let's
I like
go.
let's replace that with the FSOs out there.
Love that. Let's start a movement.
Yeah.
Be build, sell, operate, marketing underneath.
There you go. There you
Let's
go.
go.
Bring me on later.
Oh
All
yeah.
right. Look, this conversation really dovetails nicely into our Dear Franny question today.
Funny how
So
that works.
today we're being asked, it's tempting to say yes to almost anyone who can sign an agreement right now. How do you know when your franchise selection standards are too loose? And what are the consequences if you don't tighten them in time? We
Yes, it's
franchisors love to talk about this, by the way.
it's so tempting, right?
Yeah.
Here's how you know if everybody looks good. If everybody looks good, that's a problem.
Okay, so here's where this is the push pull that comes for me. On one hand, if you don't sell franchises, you cannot grow, period. And I'll say, knowing it through an interview process, and yes, you have a process, and they have to go through all of these hoops and ladders to become a franchisee and be awarded a franchise. it's still nothing compared to opening up a restaurant. So are you really getting any idea, or operating a business? Are you really getting any idea that they are going to be a good or a bad operator? I don't think that you are. And so I have a hard time. I understand what we say of like, oh, we let everybody in, everybody that signs a check, got in. And so now we have terrible franchisees. It's like, well, I just have a problem. I don't know. How do you set standards? If you're early on and you don't have a pool of this is what great looks like, how do you know what great is? How would you start it, James?
Well, I think you need to lean on some experts in the field, right? This is where
Okay.
asking for help doesn't hurt. I think if you're in the F&B business specifically, we're here to serve people. We're in the hospitality business. So,
Hmm.
reach out to people. Anybody in the F&B business that won't help you sucks. So reach out, right? Reach out. Text me,
Hmm.
LinkedIn message me. I'll give you mine. So reach out for help. Second is, I think you have to really start looking into whatever your franchise offering is as you are evaluating the prospective franchisee, what their operational or professional experience is as it relates to what your offering is. So if you're doing window cleaning, that may be one professional or operational experience qualification criteria. If you're doing full service restaurants, that may be another. But I think that at a beginning level, there needs to at least be some professional or operational or personal experience requirements that somehow correlate to your brand, and each one has to be different. There isn't a
Hmm.
cookie cutter sort of thing. Now, the sad news about that is, at times you miss the diamond in the rough, you know?
Right. Yeah.
But more likely than not, you end up with, one diamond in the rough and 8 headaches. So
Right. Yeah.
just some type of criteria, which may be adapted over time, is going to at least help you have something to vet against every pretty guy or pretty girl that comes in with a check.
Yeah. No, and I think, I mean, to your point, it's definitely going to change over time. And so I think, what I would do is identify, okay, what are the characteristics that we
Yep.
want to
The
interview
franchise
for
persona first and
today?
foremost,
Yeah.
right?
Your, yeah. And you'll hear it called your ICP. So ideal client profile. You will hear it called avatar, and you'll hear it called persona. So all of those three things mean the same thing. And what you're doing is you're trying to identify who would be perfect for your brand. And
Or as the
then
kids say, the right vibes.
the right vibes. Who has the right vibes? If you're picking people on vibes, that would be a red flag.
I like vibes, but maybe
In
you should
addition to
invest. Yeah,
in
yeah.
addition to,
It could be a
um,
third criteria, vibes.
vibe
But you're right,
that could
right?
be 3rd.
So, I think what you're saying, and I just cut you off there, was like, 1, what's your franchise persona? I will never
Yeah.
use ICP. What's your franchise persona? 2, what is the general basic to general qualifications criteria of experience that you're
Mhm,
comfortable with bringing somebody on? And then
mhm,
3, what are some of the characteristics of that individual or that organization that you would be looking for from more of a subjective feel, sort of the vibes thing, because you are inviting somebody into a contractual relationship that is going to last at least 5 to 10 years. So,
mhm.
persona, experiential experience or operational or professional background, and then that sort of subjective criteria of vibes, in my opinion, layered with financial viability is
Yeah.
something I would say as well. Is like, whew, you know, it's hard. It's hard to get money out there. Like, you don't come from money. So, while I am all for financial qualifications, right? Let's be very deliberate in is somebody qualified or unqualified solely because of net worth? To
Mhm.
me, that gets a little wonky in the world. Now, you got to have enough money to open. But
Well, I think that's where it comes from though, right? Because when your financial requirements are what they are, and then you
yeah,
start opening, and then you see like, "Oh, it costs more to open
yeah,
than we thought," and
right.
your requirements don't meet with the
Oh, I
price
agree. Like, look,
tag.
your item
Right.
7 or whatever has to be correct, right?
Yeah.
And if you're a franchisee, tip on the far side of that range. But I think, said more articulately, wherever the money comes from, right? Like, we don't need to judge if it's a PFS
Right.
or if it's an
Yeah.
SBA or if it's a whatever
Right.
that funding mechanism is.
Sure.
Um, but I do think funding has to be there. I just have seen in the business, people get a little snarky about where the money comes from, right?
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
let's not let that be
Sure.
the telltale sign, in my opinion.
The
But
other
yes.
place that I see people and I see people give more credit than is necessary is the corporate refugee persona, where they've managed a team and they were head of IT for Cisco, and isn't this person awesome? And then you're like, the head of IT for Cisco is going to open a restaurant or a small business or whatever your kind or window siding place. Like
A
that's not going to go
really
well.
It's a really good point, right? Like, to all of us who have been, corporate people who are now no longer corporate people. And side note on the lack of loyalty in corporate America in the restaurant business, but conversation for another day.
Yes.
Corporate experience does not at all translate to operational, entrepreneurial, or business ability. It just
Right.
doesn't.
Yeah.
Secondly, if you haven't run or owned a business, managed your own P&L and your own budget, you got to be careful before you get into business. And thirdly, always focus on who the operating partner or managing partner is going to be as a franchisor or franchisee if it's not you. Because running your own business is nothing like managing a $20 million budget from an insert corporation.
Yeah.
That the two are starkly different. And Catherine, I think it is a wonderful call out
Mm.
that A, franchisors need to be wary of, but also B, those people moving into franchising. It is
Yeah.
hard to own your own business.
Yeah. Period.
Great point.
Yeah. So when we talk about personas and I think that is the right place to start of like who do you want to become a franchise. Every time, every brand, we're going to attract multi-unit franchise operators who already have an infrastructure in place to buy my
The
franchise.
MUMBOs. We're all looking for the MUMBOs, the multi-unit, multi-brand, like the Flins out there. They're great. They're all out there. Everybody wants that person.
I mean, you think there's a million of these people out there, and there's just not. And
There
number
does.
1, there's not that big of a pool. Number 2, they don't want your brand. They're gonna wait. They're gonna wait until something is proven. They don't
Yeah.
have to jump in at the beginning of a trend or a concept or whatnot. They can wait and look at what the unit economics look like
And
after
kudos
2, 3, 5 years open.
and kudos to those groups that do it, right? The ones that do it really well. They're savvy, capable operators that understand what they're looking at. They made mistakes and they've learned from it, but you're exactly right. Like, it's rare that they're going to say, "Oh, this 4 unit emerging brand, let's hop on that." Like, it's just rare that that's going to happen,
Even a
right?
50 unit, right? Like, they're gonna wait
Agree.
until you
20
cross
units.
that 100
20.
unit mark, you've shown sustainability. But look,
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell you why you don't want that person until you've
Okay.
crossed that mark, right? Like, you don't want a sophisticated multi-unit infrastructure in place operator in your below 50 unit franchise because you don't have the systems to support that guy. You have the systems to support a 1 to maybe multi-unit, but they're only in your brand, and so you've customized all of the solutions based on your brand. You can't plug in
Yeah.
to the sophistication of the enterprise systems that a
The
multi-unit, multi-brand person has.
Really, really well said. The only way that works is if that mumbo's coming in saying, "We understand that completely,
Right.
and
Yep.
we are going to either buy such a significant amount of franchisees in here, we want some equity stake on it so that we
Mhm.
can get you up to speed," right? Which has
Yeah.
happened, but you're exactly right. You can't go it's just like me going trying to go I love tennis, right? I go out there and play Carlos, Yannick, or Joke, it ain't gonna work. Just ain't gonna work,
Right.
right? No matter how I think I can. So, I mean, it ain't gonna work if I go play Arena or Coco. It ain't gonna work, right? So don't go play where you're not ready to play because they are going to eat you up. And
Yeah.
and, and that's why as an emerging franchise, just go slow.
Yeah.
And when you get there, when the timing's right, they'll find you.
Well, I think, and I don't often get agreement on this, but when I'm thinking about Fran Dev from an emerging brand standpoint, I want single unit
Yeah.
operators. And then I want those single unit operators to grow into multi unit
Yeah.
because that's proof of concept. That's proof that we're doing something right. And
Yeah.
that helps me grow at the pace that the
Yeah.
franchisor grow at the
Yeah.
pace that's appropriate. If I start
Well,
trying to grow too fast with, selling multi deals, now I've made my territories not available and then I'm stunting my growth unintentionally. My opinion is when you start out, let's start with single unit, let's start in concentric circles so that we can support. And then once we've proven concept, those organic deals, those organic growth moments is really the fuel that can propel you to an overnight success after 20 years.
well said. I would say I completely agree with you. Grow from where you are to go to where you want to be. Right? And to your point, if you're an emerging franchise, bring on that single unit that wants to open 2 or 3 or 4, but let's do it right the first time and then step into the next, right?
Yeah.
Completely agree. Great stuff, Catherine. Great stuff.
Yeah. All right. So let's get to some gossip. What are some red flags that you have seen that maybe didn't appear as red flags, but over the course of your tenure, you're like, yeah, like let's be careful when we're signing these guys on. I'll start to give you an idea. So married couples. When you have the married couple going into business together and or, the wife is going to run it and she's not been in business, forever and ever again. Amen. And the husband's buying it for her. It is a road to divorce.
Or the woman's buying it for him. Just throw it
Yes,
in.
or whatever, the spouse is coming from a
Yeah.
a place of
Somebody buys it.
unhappiness,
Yeah.
and they think that buying a business is going to make the spouse happy.
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah,
Being as a man who's in business with his wife and lucky to be, it's tough. It's tough. So, really good one. Okay, mine would be other brand success.
tell me more.
Just because you're good in one thing, be it a Chick-fil-A or McDonald's, doesn't mean they're gonna be good in another. So,
Mhm,
more often than not, you get a little bit mesmerized by the fact that he or she has 7 insert of these,
mhm.
right? Doesn't mean, doesn't mean. So, you're a married couple, my other brand. What do you
So
got?
on the other brand, I don't know if you told me this or heard it from somebody else. I was talking to somebody about just, we were bringing in this person who had all of these locations of something, 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 and we were so excited. But as part of our due diligence, we went out to visit their something, something, something franchise.
This is
And
interesting, I haven't heard this, talk to me. Yeah.
when they visited it, the stores were a mess. They were dirty, they were not well run. And so they said no to the multi-unit deal from this person who was successful in this other system because they weren't running their whatever it was, their stores the way that they should. And I was like, "Well, that's brilliant. Like that is way worth the trip." So when you are signing somebody on for that multi-unit, I totally agree with you. Brand success does not translate for everything. But number 2, you could see at least their operations. Go visit them before you think they're the bee's knees and bring them into your own system.
Totally agree, and I think the 3rd one you raised was corporate
Corporate
refugee or
refugees.
CP.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are
Yeah.
the 3.
I'm not saying that corporate refugees can't be successful, but just because they were successful there. And I guess that's the nugget, right? Just because you're successful in one area doesn't mean that you're going to be successful in small business.
I think that's applicable on every type of approach and endeavor. I agree. I think it becomes, a really detailed analysis of individual and or organization as it relates to your franchise persona, your experience, qualification, criteria, and then your vibes.
And what I'll add to that is if you to try and get a sense of if someone is ready for small business ownership, ask them a question about how they've overcome adversity in their life. What adversity have they overcome and how
Really
did
good.
they do it?
It's really
And if
good.
if they're big because small business ownership is one of the hardest is the hardest thing that you will ever do.
I
It
agree.
it amplifies the problems of your personal life. It amplifies the problems of your financial situation and if you don't go into it with grit and determination and an I can do this attitude, no matter what small business ownership you have, it's just not going to go well. And so in that
I
interview process, figuring out what adversity that person has faced and how they've overcome it, I think will give you more insights than their resume.
Grit is a key element. It's really a good question. I mean, a good question to ask and a good analysis. I would say, I think Kevin Costner put it out there on some TED Talk or whatnot. You are an entrepreneur until you wake up in the middle of the night and have to make the decision to pay other people their salary before you take anything. So you pay other people and you don't pay yourself, right? And nothing's scarier than that when that B2 check doesn't come in, right? Where you have to figure out where you're going to find money to pay for the broken air condition, right? So at the end of the day, I do think that asking those key questions about perseverance, grit, challenge, but also like looking somebody in the eye that's coming into business for themselves for the first time and making sure they understand that there are consequences and repercussions that are going to come from this that are going to emanate across all aspects of your life. And you're not going to be able to make it to kids so and so thing. And you're not going to be able to make it to mom so and so thing. And somebody doesn't show up at one of your businesses, you're going to have to go there or find somebody you can pay. It's a huge change of pace and it's a huge change of responsibility that if you've never done it until you tiptoe into that waters, you will have no idea of how to swim.
Yep. All right. So let's close it out with our top six. What are your top three things that you learned today?
One, my gosh, you said so many good things today, and I just don't know where to pick him from. First, this and that, they should exist together. Like, I think
Mm.
they need to exist together, especially if you're emerging, right? I think that's a really good point. I think you laid out your first basis was where the leads are, right? And so as an emerging, I think you need to really kind of lean into somebody else who's done this before and then bringing them in either as part of the team or as you build your team. Secondly, I think that you nailed it. Like corporate refugees or corporate success does not translate into business success. And I really, really, really liked your ask them about adversity and how they've handled it in the past and are they prepared to handle it on an economic basis if they're coming into franchising for the first time in a business outside of corporate or other employment.
Those are good ones. And mine, I'm going to steal from you. So, LIT, your acronym for what you're looking for in your Fran Dev sales process, I think was right on. So, loyalty, intimacy, and teamwork, right? I think that that's a great kind of framework to think about not just your team that you're bringing on, but the process that you want to create for Fran Dev.
Love it.
And then I do think I want to start a movement around BSO, build, sell, operate. I think that thinking about
Yeah.
firms like your franchisor where they have some stake in who they are bringing on because they're responsible for how they're going to operate, I think is a really smart marrying of those two things. And then third, I'm going to steal your number 3. The process to bring on someone to buy your franchise is can be really light. And so give it some meat by asking the hard questions, asking about adversity, asking about grit before they even sign on with your brand.
Totally agree. I think the biggest thing walking away from that is that put some meat in your evaluation, no matter the beauty of the prospect. Kudos to you, Catherine. Good job.
Well, thanks. And if our discussion feels familiar, you're not behind, you're right on time. Thanks for joining us on Dear Franny, and please share this with someone who needs to know they are not alone.